Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about love and relationships poetry for AQA English literature, and I'm going to teach you how to write any essay. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you understand all of the poems in your anthology like an expert. Okay, let's learn how to write any essay. So we're going to start by thinking about what it is we actually need to know. We need to know what happens in each poem. Each poem is a little story or a little world, and we need to understand what they're about. We also need to be able to recall 3 or 4 quotes for each and also understand the structures of the poems. So there's Byron from When We Two Parted saying, "In silence and tears," a quote from that poem. And the other thing we need to know is how to structure the essay. So that's what we're going to be thinking about today so that we know how to write any essay. So this is what you're going to be asked in the examination. It's lit paper 2. It's that 2-hour, 15-minute paper, and it's the second section. One of the 15 poems will be named in the question and you'll get a copy of it. That's what you'll hear your teachers talking about when they talk about the named poem. So one of them is given to you. You'll have a copy of it in the exam paper. You will need to compare how a key theme could be loss, family, romantic love, strong feelings. So how something is explored in that poem and one from your memory. And you've got 45 minutes to do that. So we need to think today about how we're going to write that essay. So this is how you structure your essay. The first thing that I think you should do is write an introductory paragraph. Just explain what the 2 poems are about and what we learn. So that gets you settled, and that also shows that you understand how the 2 poems are linked by theme. Once you've done that, write a paragraph comparing the structures of each. The reason why I think you should do that as your second paragraph is because you know that your first half a page or so is already there for you to get involved in the moment that you're writing that essay, and also that means that you don't forget to mention structures if you leave that until later on. So that's an easy way to start your essay. Once we've done that, we're going to analyse 3 or 4 quotes from each poem, and if you can make comparative links, then that's what you need to do. You're only going to be able to use 3 or 4 quotes from each of those 2 poems in the time you've got. If you're using any more quotes than that, well, you might get away with it, but if you're using 7 or 8 quotes from each poem, you probably haven't got enough time to say anything really interesting about those poems, and that gives you something to think about when it comes to your anthology. If you've absolutely covered your anthology in words and highlighted every single line, you've got to ask yourself how much of that is useful. So I do recommend, if you haven't had a look already, have a look at the videos that I've made for each of those poems. I recommend knowing 3 or 4 quotes and knowing exactly what you're going to say about them so that you can walk in ready to write any essay, rather than thinking about every single line and every single word in the poem. If your anthology is absolutely covered in colours and words, I don't know what you're going to do with that. It's much better just to be thinking about 3 or 4 quotes that you're going to walk into the exam ready to speak about. So an introductory paragraph. We're going to think about now what the 2 poems are about and what we learn from them. Here's an example from me. When We Two Parted is addressed to a subject that may have ended a relationship with Byron. The poem explores how love can cause bitterness and resentment. Porphyria's Lover is a poem written from the perspective of a crazed lover who has killed a young woman, and this poem also explores how love can be a destructive force. So that's my introductory paragraph. The examiner knows that I've chosen 2 poems that have got a little bit of a link. They explore something in a similar or different way. I've linked the 2, and I've shown what we learn about love and relationships from them. So that's my introductory paragraph. Second thing I need to do is I need to write a paragraph comparing the structures of each, whether or not they rhyme and whether or not the metre is regular or irregular. Let's see an example of what I might write if I was writing this essay in my exam. I'm going to say this: Porphyria's Lover is a dramatic monologue, and the use of rhyme and iambic tetrameter provide a manic voice for the speaker, reflecting his madness. When We Two Parted also has a regular metre and uses rhyme to provide a constant thrust throughout the poem, perhaps reflecting how Byron's feelings of anger are constant and unchanging. Once we've done that, it's then time to analyse quotes using PEA. So we're going to analyse 3 or 4 quotes from each poem, and if we can make a comparative link to the second poem, we'll do that. So let me show you what I mean. Here's a great point. Browning uses symbolism to create a dark tone. Relatively straightforward. Here's a quote, that's my evidence. So he writes, "The sullen wind was soon awake." And then I've got my analysis. So this could be a metaphor for the speaker's dark and intrusive feelings. Just as you have no power over a storm, he may have no control over his feelings. You could also talk about the fact that the darkness and the storm provides a contrast to Porphyria, who is associated with light when she arrives. So if I can say anything else about this quote in this moment, I will do. So I've got a P, an E and an A. If I can now make a link to my second poem, it's time to do it. So I'll show you what I mean. in the same paragraph, I might say, similarly, Byron also uses symbolism in When We Two Parted to reflect emotions. And then I can think about how he might say that here in his subject's name is a knell in mine ear. And that's a use of a symbol that we associate with death and funerals and bereavement to reflect his emotions. So if I can make a link, I'll do it. If I can't, that's not a problem. I just need to make sure that I am using 3 or 4 quotes from each. I'm going to get higher marks for making those comparisons, but if I can't just grab a comparison and make it there, that's okay, so long as I'm making sure that I use 3 or 4 quotes from each. Now, this shouldn't be something that seems to be really challenging for you, because actually, if you know your quotes and you know what to say and you know the structures of the poem, you should be able to go in ready to write a really great essay and get yourself a top band outcome. So this is how we're going to take it further now. I want you to pick a focus, either strong feelings, loss, family, romantic love or frustration. Choose one of those. Just think about 2 poems that explore that focus, maybe in different ways. And then write your essay. Follow my easy steps. So think about your introduction, explaining what those 2 poems are about and what we learn from them. Then think about your structures and then start analysing the language and making comparisons if you can. And it's important that you time yourself writing your essay. You have 45 minutes in the exam. If you're getting yourself used to writing 45-minute essays, whether it be for this or whether it be for your 20th century text or for your Shakespeare text, you're getting yourself ready to be able to perform in the exam. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content and feel free to ask something you'd like to see me cover in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and keep revising.